The breeze at Berkshire felt benign enough, warm, steady, almost routine for mid-June, but under its polite stir a very different kind of turbulence was unfolding. Royal Ascot, that undefeated champion of the British social season, was expecting a triumphant reunion, the Prince and Princess of Wales gliding through the grandstand in an open landau, milliners' masterpieces bobbing like exotic flowers across a sea of mourning coats. Commentators rehearsed their lines, fashion editors had half-written copy about hat angles and hemlines, and bookmakers even laid playful odds on whether Catherine might repeat last year's soft dove grey, or debut a bolder jewel tone. Then, in a single breath, the colour drained from those carefully choreographed expectations. At noon sharp, Ascot's media office released its sacred text, the royal procession list. There it was in black and white. Carriage 1 would carry King Charles, Queen Camilla, Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales. Reporters hit send on pre-drafted tweets. Television producers adjusted frame markers. Somewhere backstage, trumpeters wet their lips. 27 minutes later, the palace slipped out a correction, so brief it barely filled a phone screen. The Princess of Wales will regrettably not attend today's Royal Ascot. No elaboration, no doctor's note, no replacement name, just the unmistakable punctuation mark of a plan unraveled. All at once, flower guides were swapped for medical speculation, and the empty seat beside Prince William became the most talked-about spot in Berkshire. It felt like déjà vu. Last summer, Catherine's chemotherapy course had ruled her out entirely. William rode alone, the first time the couple had missed Ascot together since their marriage. This year was set to be the comeback, the moment a recovering princess restaked her claim to one of the monarchy's breeziest stages. Instead, her absence sharpened the tension that has quietly threaded its way through royal engagements all year. How far, and how fast, can resilience stretch before it tears? For William, the answer arrived in real time. 20 minutes to rewrite the carriage seating, 10 to refocus press briefings, 5 to practice a trophy handoff he'd been hoping to share. If he felt the ground shift beneath his patent shoes, he did not betray it. He tipped his top hat at the band, offered a polite nod to the Duke of Kent across the seat, and rode the length of the grandstand like a man determined to prove that duty never limps, even when life does. But here's where the story takes its first unexpected twist. The crowd, primed for disappointment, responded not with groans, but murmurs of empathy. A woman clutching a pastel parasol told reporters she had endured chemo at 31, and understood why a scorching racecourse might not be the safest environment. A middle-aged father explained that after caring for his own sick child, he'd rather see Catherine choose caution than collapse mid-procession. Even hardened royal photographers, those connoisseurs of unguarded moments, spoke softly about sensible pacing and the long game. The royal family seemed to second that sentiment. The king, still navigating his own treatment, took his place in the royal box with a grin that suggested relief at simply being able to attend. Queen Camilla kept conversation flowing with neighboring dignitaries, deflecting the inevitable Catherine questions with well-practiced warmth. And down in the royal enclosure, Kate Middleton stepped out in butter yellow lace, radiating the sort of calm only a mother can project. Her hat, a blush-toned Jane Corbett repeat from a happier Ascot past, became an instant signal: nostalgia, continuity, quiet confidence. So if the monarchy's public face looked poised, what of its private pulse? Behind the binoculars and bouquets, aides swapped worried glances. Catherine had dazzled the world on Trooping Saturday, silvery coat dress gleaming in the London haze, children perfectly marshalled, smile bright enough to soften a sky heavy with low cloud. She followed that with Garter Day 48 hours later, her aquamarine and white ensemble slicing through Windsor's courtyard like sea spray. To the outside eye she seemed unstoppable. Insiders, though, knew the cost: long rehearsals, lengthy car rides, layers of expectation pressing down on a body still rebuilding cell by cell. Fatigue is no respecter of velvet capes or balcony moments. And on this particular Wednesday morning, fatigue called time. Yet in stepping back, Catherine may have made her most resonant statement since her remission announcement in January. Recovery, she's reminding us, is not a linear parade of triumphs. It zigs, it zags. It demands detours right when the road looks straightest. That recognition is itself a form of courage, perhaps a rarer kind than the balcony wave, because it ignores applause and listens only to a quiet internal gauge. Still, royal life leaves little space for detours. William's schedule reads like a diplomat's flight log: investitures, environmental summits, constitutional briefings, plus the after-school run at Adelaide Cottage, and nightly check-ins with medical staff. Add a father on his own treatment timeline, and you begin to see how the prince has become the monarchy's shock absorber, flexible yet unyielding, expected to compress crisis after crisis into manageable silence. Ascot's empty seat was a visual reminder of that pressure, magnified beneath a sky as blue as the racing colours thundering down the straight. As the afternoon shadows lengthened, William took centre stage for the Prince of Wales's stakes presentation. The scene was pure Ascot theatre, silverware flashing, cheers rising, cameras popping like distant fireworks. But every lens inevitably caught the empty space where Catherine's pastel dress should have fluttered. It was a perfectly framed paradox. A solitary figure performing an act designed for two, a future king smiling through an absence that shouted louder than any victory roar. And that's when the second twist landed, quiet, almost stealthy, but there if you were watching. Just beyond the main enclosure a small knot of photographers peeled away, heading not for the press room, but toward the private exit gates. Rumour has it they'd been tipped about a possible private photo shoot at the Wales's country retreat. Why? Some whispered damage control, new images to reassure the public that Catherine was resting, not regressing. Others suspected an entirely different narrative, perhaps a family tableau marking a milestone in treatment, or the upcoming school holidays. No confirmation arrived, and the palace closed ranks behind its favorite phrase, "We never comment on private family moments." Which, of course, only fueled the speculation. By the final race, conversations shifted from disappointment to curiosity. How exactly is Catherine calibrating her return? Will she appear at Wimbledon, patronage so dear she's attended matches while 9 months pregnant? Or will she bow out of the royal box to conserve energy, letting sister-in-law Pippa cheer centre court on her behalf? Each option carries symbolic weight, each absence another breadcrumb in a trail the press will obsessively follow all summer. Meanwhile, medical experts reminded talk show hosts that post-chemo fatigue can persist for a year or more. Sun exposure, dehydration, sudden temperature swings, simple factors that would barely dent an average itinerary can floor a recovering patient. Royalty doesn't grant immunity from biology. If anything, the glare of public scrutiny can exacerbate it. And so the palace continues its newly adopted mantra, quality over quantity. One headline-grabbing appearance, flawlessly executed, buys weeks of goodwill, worth more than 3 lukewarm engagements executed at half power. Even so, each skipped event carries risk. The monarchy trades invisibility. Too much invisibility, and questions mount about the role's relevance. Too much exposure, and health may falter. It's a knife-edge strategy, and Royal Ascot just proved how razor-thin it can be. Perhaps that's why William lingered a beat longer than usual after the trophy handoff, scanning the grandstand, offering a final wave that felt almost apologetic. It was as if he were saying, "We know you came for both of us. We'll make it up to you when we can." So what happens next? Balmoral beckons, a highland sanctuary where late August light turns heather into amethyst and paparazzi lenses struggle against the towering pines. If Catherine emerges there, walking the moors with the children, it will signal a new layer of recovery. If she stays south, cocooned in Windsor's quieter lanes, expect another recalibration. Either way, the palace will orchestrate the message carefully, balancing optimism with realism, never letting hope outrun the doctor's chart. And William? He'll keep absorbing the shocks, attending investitures in the morning, juggling homework supervision by twilight, perhaps sneaking in a stealth visit to the oncology ward where Catherine's nurses cheer quietly for their most famous patient. He has mastered the art of smiling for two, talking for two, standing for two, even when one of those two is just beyond the spotlight's reach. It is a skill set no training manual covered, yet it may define his legacy as powerfully as any coronation oath. If there's a final hook, it is this: the empty carriage seat has become the season's most compelling cliffhanger. It invites questions no royal broadcast will directly answer. How much progress is enough? When will the princess feel strong enough to reclaim her public calendar? And what does it mean for the monarchy when absence, not presence, drives the narrative? Every unanswered question keeps viewers glued to the story, refreshing feeds, scanning court circulars for the next clue. Because in Windsor world, sometimes the grandest gesture is the one held back. The silence before the trumpets. The chair left unfilled. The princess who waves not from a carriage, but from a private garden where cameras cannot intrude, yet everyone imagines the smile anyway. Until that chair is occupied again, all eyes will linger on the space where Catherine should be. And perhaps that is her quiet superpower right now. Even in absence, she commands the frame. Even offstage, she shapes the plot. Recovery isn't linear, but intrigue, it seems, can be perfectly paced. So stay tuned. The next page may turn at Wimbledon, or Balmoral, or perhaps in a simple photograph posted without fanfare on a rainy Tuesday morning. Whenever it arrives, you can be certain of one thing: we'll be here to decode every detail, every ripple across the green velvet of royal life. Because when it comes to the Princess of Wales, and the heir who stands unwavering in her stead, every pause is just a breath before the story resumes.